believe their health insurance has been suspended.
The survey interviewed people who had been held in jails, prisons, juvenile detention centers, and other correctional facilities. Most formerly incarcerated
This is KABF.
are Black and report childhood poverty and
This is KABF.
security. A report in the National Library of Medicine.
Okay, you have that one.
The life expectancy for men between the ages of 50 and 75 is reduced by 8 years.
Hold on, 5 minutes, 7 minutes.
We got
Health problems that make existing conditions worse.
look like you got 40 minutes, about almost 2 minutes, minute and 45 seconds.
Obviously, the trauma that can happen in the prison environment, poor dietary options, and really notoriously terrible health care.
The study also found that normally incarcerated older adults were more likely to be unmarried, unemployed, and have a disability than those who have never served time. I'm Frida Ross, Arkansas News Service. Find our trust indicators at publicnewsservice.org.
This is Toney Orr. KABF 88.3 FM. I want you to be out.
Is it Ubu, Ubu? What's the name? UBU?
Asset limited income constrained in the world.
That's the name of the song.
That's the name of the album. It's a song and an album. That was my debut album.
More money than money.
Oh,
We are the majority of our family. We need
the opening is so noisy.
as hard as we work for our state and families. Hey, policymakers and politicians, it's time to meet Alex. Who is Alex? All of us.
This is John Stossel. Anything that makes it harder for you to speak limits your life. So if you or someone you know stutters, you can call the Stuttering Foundation for help. 800-992-9392.
Okay, here's the theme song coming up.
Community voices. Community voices. Community voices. Community voices.
Who's up?
Must be, I don't know.
I forgot I sent you that.
Hmm.
I forgot I sent you that.
That was sweet.
Jenny Brown, what you got?
It's on the nose, his new job.
Oh, that new jack. And new jack's one.
When he did it, dun dun dun, I'm gonna sound like Bill DeVoe. Did you just hear that part? We say, I've got ready to do this.
You can say that on air. Let it go ahead and date me on it. Oh, get me, make me old.
Next thing you know, you go from that to the running man.
What come after the running man?
That's when after the running man, that's when you break out into the key to play.
Oh. You gotta keep your leg together and jump around. You gotta do that. You gotta connect to legs and jump around.
So, but if you're uncoordinated, or you mess everything up, okay, knock folks down there.
That would be you.
Huh?
That would be you.
That would be me.
I think
So,
they can hear
so
us.
I'll just think for this part.
I think they can hear us. This is the first time I understood what she was saying. I'll be me.
Go ahead, take a song with the lyrics.
What's that one?
We be you.
Oh, wicked. Who's on the phone?
That's right. Oh, okay. Okay. What? What?
I did that. I did that in one take. From the note all the way here, this all one take. Sorry, when we phase off.
Yes, we coming in hot this morning right here at KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people. And we got a guest in the house, but we've already introduced him to you because you were listening to him on the song. Mr. Mood, Marquis Hung is in the house. Ooh, we're going to be talking in just a minute. But first, I want to make sure that you know how grateful we are that you are here with us today. We realize and we recognize that you could be listening to anything on any streaming platform and from anywhere in the world. And for you to stop right here, we are grateful. We would not be alive at KABF if it were not for you. All of the ways that you show up as community. I'm talking about all the ways you show up as community. You keep us alive. And for that, we are grateful. Always also want to remind you that Community Voices centers Blackness in the context of the human story. And we do that by greeting you and receiving you in the spirit of Sawubona, that spirit of oneness that binds us together by our humanity. There ain't nothing nobody can do about the fact that we bound together by our humanity, but we can talk about, and that's what these conversations are about, how do we show up for each other human to human? What does it look like to do what our guest is going to probably say at some point, to love anyhow? What would that look like for us? And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. But I do want to pause for a moment because your co-host is live in the studio. The co-host is live in the studio. And so we want to make sure that we recognize him and allow him to greet us. He is the pastor, Toney Orr.
She did it anyway. Good morning, good
Sounds so
morning, good
ridiculous.
morning. Hey, I hope everybody's having a great Tuesday morning. I just appreciate you tuning in to 88.3 FM, KABF, where we are the voice of the people. Just want to thank everybody who takes the time out not only to tune in, but engage in what we're doing in the community and showing up KBF in the community. So we just appreciate. Just want to give another shout out, to Garbo Hearns and Pyramid Custom Framing. Uh,
You want me to help you?
yes,
Okay,
please.
so first of all, Garbo Hearn, no S on the end, and it's Pyramid Art Books and Custom Framing,
Yes, we
and Hearn Fine Gallery.
yeah, took a sponsored a tour to Helena last Wednesday to the Elaine Memorial, but also to the Delta Dirt Distillery, Harvey Williams and his family, and it was a awesome trip. Had an awesome time, and just want to just give her a shout out for all that she's doing for the community. So looking forward to the show this morning. Knowing my knowing the host Denise and knowing my friend Marquis, it's going to be a live movie. And the song fits "You Be You." Oh, it's going to be some "You Be You" today, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so I do want to also take a moment for you, Marcus, to greet us, not to get into the conversation just yet because we got to do the EJI tidbit, but I do want the people to hear from you.
Good morning, KBF. It's good to be with you again. Many of you know or hear me on Monday mornings from 10 a.m. to 12, maybe. It depends on what time I exit the studio. But it's been great being here and putting some conversation out over the last several weeks here. It's a beautiful time to be alive in the world.
You've been taking, excuse me, you have been taking over on Mondays. It's been 2 consecutive Mondays where basically you've had a 3-4 hour block.
3 Mondays.
3 Mondays where you've had from 9 to 12 of conversations either with Let's Talk About Larry Hicks and with your own show. So it's yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting around these walls around here. It's good to be here. Reverend Doctor and Pastor. Pastor. Okay. Pastor. Okay.
Yes, that's why I say it sounds so ridiculous. But I don't think that people know, and I don't even think I've said it to you, Marcus, but you named me the Reverend Doctor. I call myself the Reverend Doctor. You can call me Denise. You used to call me, you still call me that. You named me that.
Reverend Doctor.
Yeah, that's what they named. You named me that. You the only person who would acknowledge me like that. And so I just took it and now I'm using it all the time. You should have.
What you
I
started.
have some influence.
Yeah, the Reverend Doctor. You can call me Denise. I am your host for the community show, Community Voices, all the time on Tuesday. So I do want to ground this conversation in the song that's Marcus's song from his debut album, You Be You. And the name of the song is You Be You. And so thinking about that, because the reason that I invited Marcus on the show is because one of the loyal listeners asked me to bring somebody Black on who was successful so people could hear their success story. I asked the loyal listener how the person defines success. So I wanted to, because I want to make it look, if y'all ask me to do something, I'm trying my best to do it. So I wanted to make sure I understood. And so the person said, and so I said, you talking about like big houses and luxury cars? And the person said, yes. Well, I knew I wasn't gonna be able to do that. I knew I wasn't gonna be able to do that because I don't believe that is what a success is about. So that made me say, oh, well, then let's bring in different people with different stories so that I will not be complicit in this system of white inhumanity that builds boxes for folks, labels them, and then expects everybody to contort themselves to fit in the box or think that they are sinner or something. And so I wanted to include all of the voices that I could think of that I wanted to hear, that I wanted people to hear from. And so that's why I reached out to you, Marcus. And so we're listening to your debut album, and it's called You Be You. And it is important for us, especially as Black people, if we're going to live into the liberation that we keep saying we're struggling for, the number one thing we have to do is learn who we are. We got to receive our divinity. We got to walk in it. We got to live in it. We got to believe in it. We got to dare somebody to say something about it. And so you be you, the song, that's what I was thinking about. Okay. And then she says, and I'll be me. So I'm making room for all of us because the world has enough room for all of us to be who we are. And so I want to ground the conversation in that you be you, and also in this tidbit for today. On June 21st, 1940, a 26-year-old Black man named Jesse Thornton referred to a passing police officer by his name, Doris Rhodes. When the officer, a white man, overheard Mr. Thornton and ordered him to clarify his statement, Mr. Thornton attempted to correct himself by referring to the officer as Mr. Doris Rhodes. Unsatisfied, the officer hurled a racial slur at Mr. Thornton while knocking him to the ground, then arrested him and took him to the city jail as a mob of white men formed just outside. Mr. Thornton tried to escape and managed to flee a short distance while the mob quickly pursued, firing gunshots and pelting him with bricks and bats and stones. When Mr. Thornton was wounded in the gunfire and eventually collapsed, the mob dumped him into a truck and drove him to an isolated street where they dragged him into a nearby swamp and shot him again. A local fisherman found Mr. Thornton face, because if our ancestors can deal with this, surely we can deal with the nonsense that we fooling with around during this time. And so I wanted to lift up Mr. Jesse Thornton, and to go back to what Tony said about last Wednesday when we got off of the bus. When I got off the bus, took a left to walk toward the Elaine Massacre Memorial. Someone was talking to me, so I just had to take a moment to talk. But then finally, I just wanted to stop. I just wanted to stop and look and realize that we were standing on sacred holy ground. And so I want to include Jesse Thornton as part of that sacred holy ground. And I want us to take a moment just for us to remember and to think about and just pause about the massacre. Let's think about what happened with those people. And Mayor Lisa Hicks Gilbert showed up and she was like, we don't even know the real numbers. We were out here talking about 50, 60, 100 people. Some people say it was 800 people. We don't know the real numbers. So for all the people that we do not know, for Jesse Thornton and for us, let's just pause for a moment. All right, thanks for that. So, Marcus, let's just get started then. So, if you're here to talk about success, the first thing we need to know from you is, how do you define it? You.
Well, echoing or the UBU, I'll be me. Back when that was written, we were laughing here in the studio about the New Jack Swing, because that's for my album in the 90s. So they're doing Running Man and all that stuff, and it's kind of cool if you can hear the cadence of the 90s.
Yeah, because I was like, that part and say, dun, 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 made me feel like Belle Biv DeVoe. I was over here like, hey.
I never could dance. I had to do the music.
Oh, you and Tony. Tony can't dance either. What's up with this?
Because we are real preachers. And
Is that what you say? So those of you who are believing that stereotype that all Black people can dance, you got two Black kings in here that are proving that stereotype needs to be shattered.
I can't dance.
Because neither one of y'all can dance.
Not really well.
But I could dance well, and I can dance good enough for both of y'all.
Yeah, and I'm grateful. So that is part of learning to accept difference without disagreement. Success is a part of what that means. You be you, I'll be me. Often, when we think of how we differ in the culture, or how we are distinctive in the culture, often we find things that keep us separated. I like the word holiness, which is in the Greek word hagios, which means to be set apart or distinct. It actually means to be specified. So for me, success is learning to live according to one's specificity. to understand who you are and how you fit in the whole, and then join each room with that purpose, with that awareness. That is success. And it helps us live beyond competition.
I think you paused for effect, right?
I thought I was done with the answer.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
No,
I thought you were done. I thought that was an effect, right? Like you wanted us to just pause for a moment to see law. Let's
See law.
pause and calmly think about that. That's what I thought you were
Yeah,
doing.
we can do that. But another word I love is the word called efficacy, which means to produce a desired result. And I think from specificity, from this intent awareness of who we are able to affect change in ways that are economic. By that I mean we're not wasting our resource, we're not wasting our agency, and we're not confused about expectations that are foisted onto us. The projections that happen in the world. We walk into any room, a classroom, a boardroom, a church, a courtroom, and someone in that room doesn't have to explain themselves, not their presence, not their authority, not their right to take up the space they're taking up. They move through the room the way water moves through its own container, without friction, without announcement, without the metabolic cost of justifying their fact or arrival.
What happened? What happened?
And then what happens then, that's some technical difficulty happening. So we got
We got it all the time. No worries.
I took myself off the camera. And so part of
Oh.
what I see is success. I'll fix that. Part of what I see in the success frame is, especially as Black people, there's something I often called the quadrant of the gaze. And we live in a culture where we're always having to um, uh, adjust. We're having to code switch and try to match the cadence of the room. And so what I like to do in terms of success is understand who I am, understand who you are, and then I can be in right relationship with you.
Tony, do you have anything to say about success?
Yeah, since you've been doing this series this month on success and asking that question, off out of the studio, I really have thought about success, and I think about something that we were joking about a minute ago, what Mark said about not being able to dance. He said, "Well, we're preachers, so we're real preachers, so we can't dance." And the one thing I found out when we started with success is that there is a perception of success based on the label. Because the one thing we have done in this society, we label everything to identify everything. And so if you are a doctor, then there is this idea you're successful. If you're a lawyer, you're successful. If you're a businessman, they automatically say you are supposed to be successful. And if you're not, then there's a problem. And then you look at people who just may be, they may work at McDonald's. And you would look at that, society look at that person, well, that's not successful. You know, you know, but you're looking at my success based on this title or based on how you identify me, not based on who I am. And I think the more we get into this, this series of what is success, the more my eyes are being open to looking at success. I think from in a perspective from you, Denise, of how you look at it, how you define it, and what it really is.
I think back to what you said, Marcus, about this understanding of how you understand success helps us to refrain from competing with each other. And then, Tony, when you said people give certain positions, they automatically consider just because it's the position that you are successful. Well, I also know that my mama, my own mama, my very own mama, the only one that I got, one day we were having a conversation and she said to me that I'm a doctor, but I'm not like a real doctor. And I'm like, wait, what are we talking about right now? She's like, well, you know, you're not a medical doctor. I'm like, but wait a minute. So medical doctors are better than doctors of education? She was like, yeah. I was like, why? Because they save people's lives. I was like, you don't think education saves people's lives? She was like, no. She said it before she said it before she thought about it, because she was just really thinking about her position, the position that she wanted to take. So even in this space where you say a person has worked to gain this label, this title of doctor, there are still, this world still wants to position us so that we are not receiving each other through, we're not receiving each other for who we are, but for who the world tells us they're supposed to be. And then that's how we relate. Because when Marquis says, I need to know who I am, but then I also need to get to know you so we can be in right relationship, I think that's the piece that we are really missing more. Well, now the piece we're really missing is knowing ourselves. But that other piece of sitting with someone to develop a relationship that grows over time, so that you can get to know the person, so that you can learn some things about the person, so that you can learn some things about you. Because I believe without a shadow of a doubt that I know that we learn more about ourselves in relationship with other people. And so they help us see ourselves. And so it's interesting to me because I feel that spirit of competition all the time. I feel it all the time. Doesn't matter to me what room I in. Now, it does matter what room I'm in, but most of the time I feel it when I'm in the room with people, when we call ourselves doing some kind of we're gonna do some kind of movement work, and we in there taking 30 minutes to tell each other, well, my name is the Reverend Doctor, and I started out in ministry when in 19. We got to do all of that. And so I appreciate you saying, hey, I want to know who I am, and I want to get to know who you are, so that we can be in right relationship. Because I did get that from you. I used that right relationship, because the other relationships ain't working for us. Point blank period. Caller, you're live on the air, KBF at 8.3 FM. Thanks for calling.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
You know, I would like to say something. I can't say how deep or what it is. Knowing who you is one thing. The way you move with your higher frequency base of vibration is what you need to be doing. I know y'all know about the matrix and all of that, but we feed the beast. If you have a soul in you, your energy flow, if you're vibrating negative, you are feeding the opposition called the beast. The beast took all the way down to what you call your demon spirit, and into people that don't have a soul. They have to have you to live, what I'm saying. We are supporting something because we don't understand how things really work. You need to know how you are moving. If you're moving with a low vibration, you'll ever stay in bondage. If you continue on and on, you never will be free. Thank you.
I don't know if I said the Hotep was on the line, but Hotep is on the line wishing us life, prosperity, and health. And so do you have so Marcus, right before the caller call, we were talking about how important it is to know who you are, and then getting to know other people so you can be in a right relationship. Caller calls in and says, well, you got to understand how you move in the world. You got to see, you got to know what you're doing, how you're making an impact, all of that. So how do you define you? Like, who are you to you that you want us to know so that we can say, maybe I want to be in a relationship with him?
I am a cultural architect. Man, these words. This is what I do. I breathe for a living and I listen for a living. That is my go-to as a musician, a jazz musician, and a consultant. Part of what I do in the world is contour rooms. I listen to people's conversations. I do pattern recognition. All that to me is I'm here to build systems for our freedom so that we can collectively learn how to navigate in a world that is, especially for Black people, particularly, and the marginalized, the oppressed, a world that is not building public policy that is designed to benefit us. So what I do is come into those spaces and introduce concepts and ideas. I have an organization now called Group 622, and we are dedicating ourselves to innovators and thought leaders and creatives we say we are a group of people who agree to think differently about everything that matters. So part of that means we help the person center on themselves, on what they want, what they think they want, through things like the soul sobriety practice, and probably most prominently the economy of being, which operates in four currencies: time, attention, relationship, and money.
Wait, you guys said it again. Time.
Four currencies: time, attention, relationship, and money. In a world that's money intoxicated, we try to position money in its proper place, which is money is the only non-generative currency. So getting to know someone requires time. You can't know someone you don't spend time with. And spending time doesn't guarantee that you are attending to them. So attention means I am here and I am paying attention, which means I'm listening, I'm watching, I'm learning, and I'm discovering. I'm seeing how you imprint upon me, how you imprint upon the room, and vice versa. And then that helps me build right relationship with you. And from that space, we are able to activate what the money then activates or accelerates who we are. Money always accelerates something. It either accelerates our confusion, our disparity, our dissension, or it accelerates our coherence. So my mission in life is to help us build coherence and coherent relationships in every room we're in.
Honey, I want to make sure I leave space for you because I'll start talking and keep going. Me and Marcus could talk a long time.
Something you said, Mark, was that is very interesting. Is that with your organization to think differently? And I think that's one of the hardest things. I've heard. I was listening to Wendell Griffin one day, and he said, and I kid with Denise about this all the time. Says one of the most painful things that people can do is think. And I'll tell her, talking to her sometimes, she asked me, I said, listen, I don't want to think of it hurts, and I think that's one of the things, because to think a different way means to untrain what you've been taught. And I think that becomes difficult for people, even as we're having a conversation about success, even when we're having a conversation about how we look at ourselves and how we look at the world. At some point in time, you have to rethink it. And that becomes painful to a lot of people. That becomes difficult for a lot of people.
Hold on just a minute. Caller, you're live on the air, KABF 88.3. Thanks for calling Community
Good
Voices.
morning, Denise and Brother Toney and Brother Marquis, to those on the web and listening.
Good morning,
Thank
Ezekiel.
you so much for accepting my call. I wanted to just chime in on the conversation. I don't think of dancing or musical ability as some type of an esoteric endeavor. I think of them as actual gifts. There are so many things that are said about men that can dance that at one time in my life, I tried to learn how to dance. Every time I saw someone attempting to dance or doing something that I didn't know how to do, I tried to learn how to do it. That being said, I was sort of taken back when I heard that Toney and Marquis aren't dancers. I don't know if Toney's music ain't playing or not, but he's going to have to get on the ball about that dance. And I used to tell my grandkids, I taught Chris Brown how to dance. I still can dance. If I had one leg, I could dance. But to make a long story short, Marquis mentioned cadence. And I can recall the band director saying, drop down, stop, freeze, or whatever it is when everybody synchronizes in the band is marching and they stop and do certain things. And I'm reminded of all of our musical greats who not only could play their instruments, but could dance like nobody's business. And Marquis, you don't have to get on the ball, brother. If you're not able to dance, you're missing a great tradition. And at this stage of the game, I can't imagine what it's going to take for you to learn how to not have two left feet or two right feet. And with that being said, Brother Toney, I know you heard what they say about men that can dance. I mean, it's going to enhance your ability to maybe become a little more popular in the community. Not that you're trying to do this or that, but it helps in networking. Dancing, just think we got a president that's been in a big ballroom. That's what they used to call dance hall.
Oh, my.
And, you know, it's just something that we all should be able to partake in. David was a good dancer, apparently, so much so that his wife got mad at him for dancing.
I think he was stripping.
Big part.
Yeah, he was making it rain. He was making it rain.
He was doing the James Brown.
Yeah, he was making it rain.
He was closer to Al Green, but
but that was
George Clinton.
you know, honestly, and I'm serious. I can't remember musicians that could dance because I used to see dozens and dozens of people in the band. And that's why they should have band and music back in these schools. Get on Miss Huckabee and, well, not Huckabee, Sanders, Miss Huckabee Sanders, and tell her that we need more of that in our schools. They took it out of our schools for some reason, but I think that's a great part of our educational system that's going underdeveloped. And I'm going to get off there and let y'all continue with your conversation. But Marquis, you're going to have to learn to get your feet together there, brother. You know, you're a great musician because I enjoy your music. I've seen your shows. But I never knew you couldn't dance. And Toney, that's a surprise, man. You know, you're going to have to learn how to. Denise on the teacher, she said she can dance for both of you. She probably can teach both of you also. So that's a great undertaking. It's not that the church, that's just something we do, and we got rhythm. And you can center that in Blackness or whatever, but everybody dance now, and I think Black people in America are the cause of folks dancing as much as they do. And with that, I'll get out there. Thanks very much.
So it's a very interesting comment, and I want to say something about it. The work that I do as a cultural strategist, one of the conversations we have is when we're talking in what some people have now named courageous conversations, but me, when we're being real and raw and authentic and vulnerable and transparent with each other, we're having real conversations. And so I say to them, you can learn about your own self, you can learn about your bias by what surprises you. And so I'm gonna get back to that. Call you live on the air, KABF. Thanks for calling Community Voices.
One more thing, you were saying about something about, well, no, when you well, I'm gonna speak for me. As I started waking up, I was in a state, hell, I thought I was going crazy because it automatically makes you start to put down things that you used to do. But you have to do that to gain new things, a new way. It can make you want to go to the doctor to get the pill. I know about what I was going through. I didn't know why I was at there for a while until I started realizing, hey, I'm getting rid of this and this is coming. And that's just the way I deal with it. Thank you.
And so when Ezekiel says that he's surprised that these two Black kings cannot dance, then why does that surprise you? Because you expect Black men to be able to dance, you expect instrumentalists to be able to dance, that's your expectation. So you've created this narrative about what it means for Black men and how they're supposed to show up. And if they're not showing up to dance, Ezekiel is like, what? And I'm over here like, what you mean? What? They don't know how to dance. Like, everybody doesn't know how to dance, and that ought to be okay. And so going back to something that Toney said about some people see somebody working in McDonald's and you think, oh, they're not successful because they're working in McDonald's. The other day, I was in KFC over there on Camp Robinson, and we couldn't go inside to eat because it was something going on. So we walked in like, what's going on? The air conditioner was down and it was hot. And so there was this Black queen, and she was talking, taking our order, blah, 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 and I'm like, queen, it's hot. Like, what we gonna do? Trying to to figure this out. And so she said, I said, and they weren't gonna let y'all close with it because they were gonna make that money regardless. And she said to me, I'm gonna get paid regardless. Y'all know why? Because it was her franchise. So you walking in, you see somebody black working at a fast food restaurant, and you assume that they are not successful. This black queen's own this franchise, and she said, "I'm gonna keep the doors open because keeping the doors open makes sure that I get my employees paid. I'm gonna get paid regardless, but I want to make sure they get paid too." And so all of these things that we have in our head about who people are and how we know they're successful and what success looks like, yes, we got to rethink it. So how do we do that, Marcus? What's the first step for us? Unlearning, unremembering, discovering who we really are, knowing what our currency is. How do you do it?
Well, one, to the caller, I don't perform dancing. I perform as a professional musician and speaker. I do dance at home. I got some people that really like to come up close to me, and then they laugh at me while I dance, which it has its own feature and comedic relief. And part of what we said in terms of the preachers, that was comedic relief in terms of what we offer as anecdotally, because I can move a little bit, and if that person see me play and didn't know I couldn't dance, I mean, I fooled them really well. But the phrase, the room I'm in, one of the things I love to do about helping people understand success and success metrics. If a person, whoever we are going to experience ourselves successful, we can only do it in the moment we're in, from the room we're in. To your point about looking at people in a place like McDonald's, it's important that everybody recognize what station they are in life. 18, 15, 12, 35, 55, 83. Whatever station you're in, you can succeed well in that station. If you work in the drive-through, you can succeed well in that station because you have an opportunity to build relationships with your coworkers. You have an opportunity to extend value and love and compassion and understanding and space. There are so many ways to succeed that are not just measured by money metrics. And this, I think, was just what I call money intoxication. I wrote a piece lately, a few weeks ago, that says, I would love to imagine that I could have a conversation about money without having to talk about making more of it. A way to center the human before I center what money they make. And so success is fluid. It's sometimes it's the right hug, sometimes it's the right ear, sometimes it's the right touch, sometimes it's the right silence. Sometimes it's the right food, it's the right gumbo. Sometimes it's just the right nothing. In music, they have a thing called rest. That means, and sometimes they write it in, it means do nothing. And we need sometimes to learn what it means to succeed at doing nothing at the right time. Success is all around us, every moment, and it's available to each one of us from whatever station we live in.
Yeah, I feel like talking about money or learning not to talk about how to make more money, again, that is what we have to unlearn, because we have been taught, we live in a capitalistic society. And so we've been taught you got to make money to live. Well, I see money as a vehicle. That's how I define money, as a vehicle that is absolutely necessary in the work that I do, so that we can, so the money is used as a vehicle for us to reach total liberation. We do have to have money to do that. But going back to something you said, Marcus, but how do we spend our money? So I was having a conversation. So wait a minute. Okay, so Lo is asking the question that you just answered. I think I pulled up the question late. And so here was the question that he asked: is success based solely on material possession and money? Clearly not, based on what you just said, right? So no, the answer to that would be no, based on what Marcus was just talking about. And then Takia, my former student, hey Takia, that's how I greet her all the time. Hey Takia, she said, succeed at nothing at the right time. She's quoting you, Marcus, and she said that speaks on so many levels. Succeed at doing nothing at the right time. And this world does not allow you to do nothing. This world has got us on a constant grind until you realize it's possible to divest from this. And one of the things I was talking, I'm not going to call the name of the person because I didn't ask them, could I share this story? But I was talking to a friend, and the friend was talking about how he has 2 cars or something like that. Now, no, the conversation was about, I drove this car on Sunday. And I was like, oh, I didn't know you drove this car on Sunday. I thought you drove the other car on Sunday. He said, well, I drive whatever car I want, whenever I want. I said, okay, well, since you can only drive 1 car at a time, why do you need 2 cars? And then basically he said, because I can. And what's wrong with it? And I shot back, you know what's wrong with it? What's wrong with it is that you done bought 2 cars. You probably live in a big old house. You probably got whatever you got. And if I were to ask you right now, if I were to say, hey, we're getting ready to build a beloved community and we need all of us to chip in, we need $5,000 from everybody. You wouldn't have $5,000 to give because your money is all tied up. It's tied up in all this stuff you got. And so you wouldn't be able to use the money as a vehicle to push us forward because it's tied up in the way that you spend. And so thinking about how you spend, and because one thing I do not let people do is call me cheap. Listen. You can call me that if that's what you want. And I say, no, it's not. My question is never, do I have the money? The question is this how I want to spend my money? Is this how I want to use the money? And most of the time for me, the answer is no. I ain't buy nothing on Father's Day. I ain't send nobody nothing. It's already probably another. We just had Mother's Day. What's coming up after Father's Day? 4th of July. And so all of these ways that we spend money, if you would just put that money that you're going to spend on just holidays alone in a container and just keep it in your closet, then I think you can begin to say, you know what? I ain't got to have this stuff. I don't have to spend this stuff because I'm not defined by that. But I think that we don't know how to redefine ourselves.
It's difficult to imagine spending time and spending attention. We would say pay attention. And then to spend a relationship. And so often we are expending relationships and we are wasting time and we are losing attention. There's something in terms of this production cycle that lives in what pathological capitalism. If we can imagine the seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter. Winter is nature's conversation to us to say there is a time for dormancy. In relationship, it's difficult to live in a world where you are in spaces where people invite your dormancy. It's where we say, this is your time not to produce. This is your time to heal. This is your time to restore. Around the world, on the globe, we have seasons operating at different spaces and time. Imagine being in relationships when, Denise, this is your winter, and so you have no expectation from the community to perform or to put out. This is your time for the community to help you heal, to help you restore, to help you rest. This is not how we see the world of money, capitalism, or money or the economy. But in the space of time, attention, and relationship, this is where we decide where our money, what we spend money on, what we want to accelerate. And oftentimes we are not aware of what we're accelerating when we're spending our money or our time, whether it's social media, all the algorithms, these data companies, or these apps that are taking our attention and using data about our attention that we don't even know we're giving, because we're not even aware of how we're spending our time. They're not just looking for what you purchased, they're looking for your purchase patterns. They're not looking for what you say, they're looking for your speech patterns. This is what they're doing. They're looking at how you treat the people in your life, because they can see all those things in the algorithms. And then they feed you, and oftentimes they feed you into a space where it keeps the community at odds with each other. This is why it's important for us to know each other, to spend time. It doesn't take a lot of time to spend quality time if the intention when I'm with you is to be with you.
Well, I'm sorry, Tom, do you want to say something?
Yeah. I think one of the things, going back to something that I said earlier, is the labels that we put in the identity. There's a label that's affixed to money. And because there's a label and there's an identity, there's an idea and a thought. When I think about the conversation that's going on right now, you can actually say that this conversation, um, if you want to put it with a label of success, that there's so much being said in this conversation right now that someone could look at it and say, oh, that's something I never thought about, which could open the door to a framework of success. The one thing that when we talk about freedom, you know, and I know the caller mentioned about not dancing. The one thing I believe in freedom is that it does not matter what person can dance. It does not matter if a person has $1 million or live in a big house. What matters is this person able to move past what everybody else thinks and live into their own idea of what success. If I step out on a dance floor, if I don't step out on the dance floor because I say I can't dance, now I put myself in the box. But if I step out on the dance floor and I don't care what anybody else is thinking or saying, I have broken out of that box, and the movement and the rhythm of my own, is what's going to compel me to that idea of success. I'm successful in my own right because I took the chance, I took the opportunity, I took the initiative to get out there anyway. And I think that's one of the components of success is, am I willing to step out of the label, step out of the identity, step out of the box, and do what my body, what my rhythm, what my consciousness is telling me to do. And that's what stops a lot of people. Even listening to this conversation now, there are people who will automatically close their ears to what's being said and say, oh, they full of bullshit.
Who is that man over there?
Tony?
Yeah.
What are we talking? What's the question?
I'm all caught up in what he's saying. Listen to him. Like, don't, Tony.
I was like, wait, but in order for Tony to even say those things, what you said, Mark, was you said, we have to spend time with each other. It's quality time. We've got to think about living our lives seasonally. What season am I in? What room am I in? What do I bring to this room? Okay, to me, that requires thought.
Yeah.
So when Tony says to me, I don't want to think because thinking hurts my brain, I didn't know what to do with it. And so I sat with that for days and days. I still think about that. And I'm like, so if you're not thinking and you don't know how to be yet, because most of us don't know how to just be. So if you're not thinking and you're not thinking, what is you doing? I can't understand. What are you? The world does not want you to. That's the world don't want you to think. But we have to. I don't see how you can function without it. I don't see how, because if you're not thinking, that means you're just doing whatever. You're just going along with the flow. You just do. And Marcus, I think we've had this conversation several times about how in this world we find ourselves just regurgitating stuff. We just say what we've heard somebody say. We just do what we see other people doing, and we don't think about it. The reason somebody say you can't dance is because in their minds they have a certain way of how dancing is supposed to look. So when Tony says, as long as I'm not considering that, if I'm thinking about who I am and thinking about who I am, don't care about how you feel about my dancing, I'm gonna get out here and just move however I move. And let me just say this. I was contemplating whether or not I was gonna say this, but I'm gonna say this. Since we talking about any black kings, because we were talking about black kings, Ezekiel said he can't believe that y'all can't dance. Let me tell you what I know about a black king. If you've been intimate with a black king, I don't care what form of intimacy it is, there's so many. When you get on the dance floor, if he say he can't dance, all I need you to say to him is, babe, move like you do when we together. Baby, you'll tear the dance floor up. And so all we have everything that we need in our bodies to function however we want to function. The question is, who's driving your functionality? If you're not thinking, then you ain't driving it. And if you're just living in this world going on, then the system of white inhumanity is driving it. And so if we're asking you to get to know yourself, then you got to be able to say, wait, not only do I want to know myself, but I want to be strong enough to stand 10 toes down on myself. Ain't nowhere I can't go. Ain't nothing I can't do. It's nowhere that I can't be successful. It's nowhere that I cannot change the room, the atmosphere when I walk in the door. We have to know that way down deep inside. And so my question to you, Marcus, is how did you get to the point that you now know this way down deep inside? Because I don't believe you came out the womb like this, talking like this. I believe lived experiences and all of that have brought you, all of that included has brought you to this space.
Well, I certainly didn't come out the womb 6'1". And in my book, The New Human, someone asked that question. It was a different way. They said, how did you come to know what you know? I said, well, I decided to observe what was happening, look at what was happening, find the truth, and then not argue with it. And so the tendency here, and I think this can kind of give some texture to the word thinking. In the culture, thinking is a proposition frame that requires memory, it requires performance, it requires kind of an accuracy that also is attached to shame. And sometimes that thing is what we want to avoid desperately. I think for me, thinking is like breathing. It is a type of awareness that is present with me that I should be able to move through effortlessly. I think loving and thinking should be like breathing. I remember myself breathing more readily when my breathing is stifled, either a cold or an allergy, a flu, or maybe somebody's choking me. So I think I am aware, I am present. The word prayer for me means to be aware of one's own thinking. And so that is the call in consciousness and in heightened spirituality. This is the book, The New Human, is a discovery to one's own sacred self, realized by changing the relationship with love. It's being present, recognizing, or sometimes just cognizing. So we recognize, but when we get to a place where we can settle into the truth that's present without waiting, without needing it to prove itself before we move with it, then I think it's easier for us to be in right relationship more expeditiously. We are at a crisis pitch, I think, in the world right now with culture, with economics, almost catastrophic. A catastrophic moment is, I think, upon us, and I don't see that in terms of doom. I see that in terms of a call to readiness. We're no longer at a time where we can really afford to not pay attention to each other. There are movements afoot, what you call white inhumanity. I call it communal use disorder. I think there is a condition in white male superiority, the cisgender male, which is essentially the domesticated dimension we're in, that operates with men who are not able to understand the value of humanity, even the value of themselves. It's an addiction, it's an intoxication, it's a sickness. And we remedy that by recognizing we don't need their awareness or their ideas to help us become who we are, thinking differently about everything that matters. I love that phrase because nothing is off the table. Nothing is off the table.
We have about 2 minutes left, and I want to give you the last minute because I do want you to have some last words. But when you said that when you find the truth and you don't fight it, and then you went on and you said something to the effect of, I don't need the truth to prove itself to me before I move with it. I'm thinking about those words, and I'm thinking about my own self, because I am part of what I say all the time. It's like I'm a story teller, I'm a collector of story, I'm a story collector. I speak the truth, I'm looking for the truth, I'm supporting the truth. It's all about the truth. I say all those kinds of things. And so for me, I need you to speak just for a moment, because I don't see how my body can do that. I don't see how my body cannot know whether or not something is true or right or real, and then say, but I'm going to trust it anyway, hoping that, I don't know if you're hoping that you're right, but that this truth will manifest itself at some point. So how do you give yourself over to something that you don't feel like you even know or understand or believe or see?
Well, it's the jazz of the conversation. So imagine walking on a sidewalk or in a busy airport, and you are unaware of who's going to be walking through, who's going to have a baby carriage, who's going to have luggage, who's going to be running, who's going to have a cup of coffee, who's going to be on their phone, who's going to stop mid aisle and look at the monitor. And there's something, even when you're walking on the sidewalk, you see something happening 3 feet ahead of you, and then you notice yourself moving to avoid a shoulder. You're not waiting, you're not calculating. There's something in your body, that somatic register, that is linked in to what's happening ahead of you. And that is a spiritual practice that we can learn to be with. And so that's one of the things I try to help people see. Even if you're not perfect at it, we can get better at it, but we're always demonstrating it. Even when we talk, we're not always aware of the words that's coming next, but we trust because we've practiced. We've practiced.
So to me, that sounds like that's a little different from what I heard you say before, because yes, we're practicing how to follow our bodies and listen and be aware, even though we don't realize we're being aware. But you at first put that word truth in there.
Right.
And so that what you're talking about now, to me, is not what I understood you talking about. Truth.
The truth is that what is true is always changing. The truth is established. It is principle. It is governing. And so when we say something is true, we are able to be with the way we're moving. But in the next moment, it'll be a different truth because it'll be a different time. But what is true? And I have to be able to do this. Otherwise, I will delay our union. If I have to always make you prove yourself before I move, we'll be able to extract and use, and it may be to their value and not mine or not ours. So that's what I mean. It's more esoteric. It's a bit less static. It's more ecstatic. It's ecstasy.
Yeah, so let me just say this. A couple of words you use. The word cisgender means that you're talking about a person who's not of trans experience. So if you are not a person who believes and knows in your body that you are transgender, then the world will call you cisgender. So I wanted to clear that up. We've used the word esoteric a couple of times, making sure that you know that the stuff that we're talking about, well, I think you just said it is esoteric, but I'm gonna say it's not because it doesn't belong to just a few people. So esoteric is like only a few people deserve to know this knowledge or whatever. And so I just wanted to clear up those two terms so that people could understand what we're talking about. And we got to go. I need you to say a quick last word because we got to go.
Esoteric means not readily available to the topical consciousness, and for many people, they're not able to access that because they haven't been trained or initiated into it. What I say,
but they do have the ability to access
they have the
it.
capacity.
Absolutely.
And but it's so I'm speaking about what happens on the up. Anyway, listen, call me, find me on Facebook. We can have this conversation. Denise will argue, and we got to get off the show. And this is not Monday, so I don't get to keep the show moving.
So, Tony, it's 10:03. Your girl Lola needs to come on, but I do want to make sure you have a chance to say something.
Hi, Lola.
Come on, Lola, and let's get started.
Okay, so usually your girl Lola is already at the door. She's already ready with 2 hours of jazz that you do not want to miss, because don't even think about whether or not you can dance. Don't even ask the question. As you are listening, just let your body just do what it do. Just let it do what it do, and you will be fine. And I want to get us started. She usually starts with the ladies, but today I don't want to start with a lady. I'm actually going to start with Donna Hathaway because of the song. And so Donny Hathaway is singing to us, and the title is "For All We Know." And so that's what Donny Hathaway says, and basing the conversation about what Marcus is saying. We don't know if we're going to meet again. We don't know if tomorrow is promised to us. We don't know what's going to happen. So we got to take advantage of cultivating these relationships and tending to each other no matter what, because for all we know, this is it. And that's what we're going to leave you with. Thank you so much for joining us at Community Voices. You have been live right here with the Reverend Doctor. You can call me Denise and Mr. Move. Make sure you look him up and get ready to hear him some more on Mondays, and your boss and your pastor. And so now listen to this.
Yeah, you can she was streaming. You can go to my YouTube channel or any streaming platform.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah,
I got you.
put that on my playlist.